all you wonderful people out there in the dark. Thank you again so much for checking in. Yes, as you can see, the Hobbit has left the Shire once again, and we're on a little adventure. Today's adventure takes us to Perris, California, and that's in Riverside County, and Perris is spelled P-E-R-R-I-S, which should tell you everything you need to know about this little community. But anyway, I wanted to show you, it's called the Rock House or Rock Castle. It's on the top of a small hill in Perris, California, and not a lot is known about it. And I did some digging, and I was able to find out a few things, not a whole lot, but I wanted to share it with you. So this cat named John Ragsdale was born in 1891 in Missouri. Now, at some point, he comes out to California and he settles in Ventura County and is doing some farming. And he ends up meeting this gal named Ada Woodford, who lives in Santa Paula. Well, they get married in 1913, and I think they continue to farm, and quite frankly, they don't have a lot of success. So about 1922, the Ragsdales, well, they moved to this little town called Perris, and John and Ada buy a service station on 3rd and Main. And I think he builds a little living quarters off the service station for him, his wife, and I believe they had a young daughter, or had a daughter as well. And the service station must have had some success, because he ended up buying a second service station a short time later on 4th and Main. Well, John and Ada, they decide to buy some property to build probably a proper house for their family. And they purchased 30 acres on what is then known as Mount Montreal, which is named after the original owner, Henri Montreal, or Henry for us Americans. But he purchases the property. The one thing that he has to move, there was a large cross on the property where I believe at that time Sunday services were held. But he liked the small hill because it gave him a terrific view of his 2 service stations. But in about 1928, 1929, John and his family and friends would go down to the Whitewater River Basin, would gather up rocks and boulders and bring them, put them in his Model T, and he'd bring them to the main road. Well, after about a year or so of doing this, he hired a company to take all of these rocks and boulders and take them from the main road to the base of this hill, where over the course of the next 18 months, the Ragsdale built this rock castle, or rock house. Once he completes it at the end of that 18 months, he ends up living in it with his family for about 10 years or so. And in 1937, he ends up selling the house, and his family moves to Kentucky, which is where the Ragsdale's story ends, I suppose. Now, as I understand it, this house has remained in private hands since 1937, though the original 30 acres has been subdivided many, many times. And today, it appears that the house is owned by some sort of construction company. It is surrounded by chain link fence, and we won't be able to get too close, but I wanted to drive by, show it to you, and obviously we're not going to trespass. But I thought it was very, very interesting. This little town has this beautiful castle sitting on top of a hill. Anyway, we're on our way there. We should be there in just a few minutes, and we'll take a look. Pretty exciting. Okay, so we are on the 215 freeway. We're just getting on the 215 freeway. I had to hang a U. We're going to be exiting on D Street here in a moment, and hopefully you'll be able to see the house up on the top of the hill here to the right. I'm going to try to zoom in here without. Okay, you see that nestle of trees? Kind of see the house there, I think. Get a better shot here in just a moment. And that is the Rock Castle of Perris, California. there's about as close as we're going to be able to get to the rock castle. You can see the windows are boarded up. And then you can kind of see some of the original wall that he had built, and you can see up here another wall that Ragsdale has built. And there's sort of a shot of the house. I'll try to get a little closer here in just a minute. So here's a shot, I guess from the distance, basically across the street. Kind of gives you an idea of the small mountain, we'll call it, that existed all the way back in 1928, 1929. I'm going to zoom in here for just a second. You can kind of see off to the left there's some stairs leading up to that top balcony on the left-hand side. Kind of interesting. But let's see if I can get a hair closer for you. Okay, so you can see the road that leads up to the rock house, and that is I believe, the front of the house. And as you can see, all the windows are boarded up. There's a lean-to that's been built. But I bet at one point it was very, very majestic, and I can only imagine how incredible the views are. But there is the rock house, the rock castle of Perris, California. Now, just to give you an idea, I'm not certain of this, but you can see there's the rock castle off in the distance. And right over here, I believe, is the service station. I'm going to zoom back out. That he owned. This is 2nd Street and D Street, but I believe back in the 20s, D Street was Main Street. So I do believe that this would have been his first purchase, his first service station. And as we talked about earlier, he'd built something small for him and his wife and child to live here on the actual service station itself. Again, by today's standards, you can no longer obviously see, well, maybe you can from on top of that hill, the service station, but again, it's now called D Street, but I believe in the 30s this was Main Street. So 2nd and Main, there would have been Mr. Ragdale's service station. Okay, this is Main Street, Perris, California, now known as D Street. Try to park here. You can see a few old things. The Southern Hotel here on the right, that is original. I'll park here. We'll get out and do some looking around. This would be the corner of Main Street and 4th Street, and as you can see, there's no longer a service station in sight. So I believe the 2nd and Main is all that's left of Mr. Ragdale's efforts. So we're heading now to, well, we're on D Street / Main Street, and as you can see, we're approaching 4th and would have been Main. And I'm going to say that service station is long gone. My guess is it would have been here, and there's now a restaurant. And interestingly enough, across the street there's the Bank of Paris. That's actually a sort of a museum now, but it's been closed for the last year because of the pandemic. Hopefully it'll open again soon. We can go in and take a look. But no service station on the corner any longer of 4th and Main here in Perris, California. And as you can see, clearly this was once the main street of this small town. Kind of interesting. So there you have it, the Perris Rock Castle or house. I hope you got a kick out of seeing it. I sure had a kick showing it to you. Though it's a little sad that it's not a private residence, but I suppose we should all be thankful it hasn't been razed and turned into a strip mall or something silly and useless. Anyway, if you ever happen to be in the town of Perris, going down the 215, it's worth getting off on D Street and having a quick peek. It really is majestic in person. Anyway, in this world, when you can be anything you want to be, you be kind, you be humble, you be forgiving, and you be melting snow. Bye-bye.